TheActuationZone.com. Brought to you by ChangeLeadershipGroup.com.
Hi, this is Brett Clay. I'm here the day before the PSAMA, that's a Puget Sound American Marketing Association conference called Marketing Mix 2012, and I'm here with Ted Rubin, CMO at Collective Bias. Is that correct title?
Pretty close. I call myself a Chief Social Marketing Officer.
Chief Social Marketing Officer at a company called Collective Bias, and he is keynoting the Marketing Mix conference tomorrow. Ted, thank you so much for taking some time with me.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
So Ted, tell us, what is the key idea that you're going to talk about tomorrow? I know the title of your keynote, I believe, and of your upcoming book is Return on Relationship. Is that right?
That's correct. And that will be the basic topic of what I'll be speaking about.
So tell us a little bit about what you mean by return on relationship for those few that haven't heard Ted already speak on this.
Well, really simply put, return on relationship is the value that's accrued by a person or a brand due to nurturing a relationship. So ROI is simple dollars and cents, whereas ROR, return on relationship, is the value you receive by building loyalty, trust, and an ongoing relationship.
Very good. Now, as marketers, we're always concerned about trying to measure the impact of our marketing. So what are some ways that you talk to coach companies about measuring return on their relationship?
Well, you know, I think return on relationship goes a lot towards the conundrum that everyone's finding now of measuring social. And one of the interesting things was I was reading Ad Age just the other day, and there was apparently recently a marketing study done with the New York American Marketing Association and Columbia Business School, and it says that most marketers, basically CMOs, don't drink their own Kool-Aid. Basically what that means is that they are saying ROI, 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 but they're not basing their budget decisions on ROI. They're really basing it on past history and on gut instinct. So we're being asked to do something because this is a new medium that isn't necessarily being used for past mediums or for social itself. It's kind of growing incrementally, you know, as those budgets are increasing little by little. But what I talk about is, number one, is everybody understands the concept of loyalty and trust. Every brand out there over the last 20, 30 years has built loyalty programs. And what's really happening is they're not working anymore because they're not really garnering loyalty. All they are is trying to game the system with points and somewhat of gamification. What they're not doing is engaging and interacting with their consumers and building true relationships. So what I'm saying is, online, via social, let's start looking people in the eye digitally. Let's take back the word friend that Facebook has co-opted. Give it true value again and understand that people prefer to do business with people they like. And then there are natural metrics that go along with that. We all know, again, that loyalty increases sales. So what happens with these things? Awareness will increase sales. Brand amplification will increase sales. Trust makes people feel comfortable doing business with you. So all of these things can go to it. And then there are specific examples where, let's look at the customer service silo, where if people feel comfortable that they're being delivered, that they're being heard, that they're being listened to, you're going to increase sales. And if you use a social channel to do that, let's talk about something that JetBlue likes to say, that if one person's complaining, the odds are there are 149 others complaining. If you answer that in a public format, then you've just responded to at least 149 people, probably a lot more when you extend into their social graph and those people start talking about it. So start looking at, if you get very engaged in your social channel on the customer service side, start looking at your call center volume, start looking at your complaints, start looking at what's happening with that. And you're going to see usually a big uptick in that respect. Let's talk about something else that I like to get into, and let's talk about the subject of insurance. Let's call something called social cred. Okay, social credibility means that you're a brand that's out there, that's engaging, that's authentic, that's transparent, that people learn to trust, and you're building up credibility. So now, in this audience, everyone we're speaking to, I would probably say that if I asked who has insurance, every single person here would raise their hand. If I asked how many people have at least 3 types of insurance, I would say at least 75% of the people in this audience are going to raise their hand. They've got car insurance, they've got health insurance, they've got life insurance, they've got disability insurance. What is the object of insurance? Never have to use it. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip. When you're in your 80s, don't ever go back and do the math. Because God willing, if you didn't have a major crisis in your life, you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on insurance that you never used. And you could have used more effectively in other ways. None of us need insurance to go to the doctor. We need it for a catastrophe. But now let's look at the business side. If you go out and build social credibility, I guarantee you that is an insurance policy that will pay off, and probably year in and year out. Product launches. A bad ingredient in a product. a product that's not working properly. Anything that can happen, a bad event in one of your stores. If you have social credibility, if people trust you, and there's a time where either you need to say what happened and have an audience who's really willing to hear you and not just talk back at you, or you have advocates who are willing to stand up and say, I understand that happened there, but these guys have been great to me for years and I'm going to continue going back. Or you need people to just give you a pass when you say, you know what, we can't talk about this right now for one reason or another. And in today's day and age, there are many things that happen that for some reason, whether it's the FDA, the FTA, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Homeland Security, somebody is putting a clamp on you as far as what you're allowed to communicate, and you need to be able to go out and say, we can't talk about that right now. If you have a strong social presence, your advocates and your audience are going to say, you know what, they're always straight with us. We're going to let it go this time.
You know what I really like about what your point of view, you know, we're almost coming at this a little bit from different perspectives, you and I, because I'm very much on the direct sales, direct contact point, and I talk about lifetime value, that you have to build, don't be transactional, build relationships, deep relationships that are based on your record of delivering high value to your clients, and think about the lifetime value. And you also, coming from the social side and the more the marketing automation, if you will, advertising side, talk about lifetime value and not being transactional as well. It's very interesting. I think we're coming to the same conclusion from two sort of different ends.
You know, and that's important because there are a lot of different ways that companies, brands, individuals look at life or their job or the product they're delivering and what's important. And we have to be, at some point, we have to be transactional. ROI is absolutely the end game. Nobody is in business not to make money. Even a not-for-profit is in business. They're not making money to the bottom line, but they're raising money to give out to people. So we all have to be successful in that respect. But it's a matter of how do we get to that success? And it's a matter of using all the tools that are available. What I love about social and about relationships is, to me, it's a shell that gets built around everything else. So you're doing your affiliate relationships, you're doing your search, you're doing your direct selling, you're doing everything else. But if you build a social shell around it, that number one helps amplify and build awareness for everything you're doing, and number two is builds a relationship response rate around that and makes people feel like they're being heard, they're being listened to, and allows you to evolve what you're doing by hearing what people are saying. I mean, there is no excuse anymore to say, well, we didn't realize they wouldn't like it. Or to make sure that people in advance give you some kind of feedback about what you're doing. I mean, at Collective Bias, we use the blogging community. We're big believers in that. We feel these people I believe blogging is the power of social. I think Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, they're platforms. It's the people that make them work. They're facilitators of relationships. They're not the relationships themselves. And what bloggers do is bloggers are incredibly good, efficient at building relationships. They create static content. It doesn't just fly by the way Facebook posts and Twitter, especially Twitter, goes flying by, and all these other things. And they get to really know their audience. They get a lot of feedback from the audience. They pride themselves on comments and referring back and forth. So at Collective Bias, we don't do anything without reaching out to a directed community and say, what do you think about this product? How do you think the shopping process will work? Talk to us, because I can't tell you how many meetings I'm in with the founder of the company, John Andrews, brilliant guy, past head of emerging media at Walmart, CPG guy for many years, and a brand will say, John, what do you think we should do on this? I'll go, don't ask me, let's ask our community. Because let's go back to marketing 101. Market to your target. Don't market to yourselves. And you would think that with all these professionally skilled, educated marketers today, that these mistakes wouldn't be made, but they're being made every single day. And what I like to say is every marketer at an agency, at the college level, at the graduate level, should have to take marketing 101 before they graduate. Not when they start, or take it both times. Because they're forgetting about reach and frequency. They're forgetting about marketing to your target audience. They're forgetting about all of these things. And I like to talk about a movie called Big. I'm sure you've seen it with Tom Hanks. Everyone's seen this movie. He becomes a young kid, becomes an adult. And everyone's favorite scene in this movie is the piano scene in FAO Schwartz. My favorite scene is the sales meeting scene where they're about to launch a new product. And the sales VP is talking about all the stats and how parents love it and what a killer it's going to be. And Tom Hanks is sitting in the audience going, I don't get it. A building that turns into a bug? It's not fun. Because they didn't ask the kids. They didn't find out from them what's fun. And we have that opportunity every day in social to find out every day what's happening.
So I guess your biggest advice to marketers would be to reach out and talk to your target audience. Don't just sit in your conference rooms and dream up your campaigns.
100%. Talk to them, engage, listen. Most people just want to be listened to. It's amazing how many problems you'll make go away just by looking people in the eye digitally, And we can talk about that another time, how you do that. And making sure they understand they're being heard. It's just so important. And then you'll hear some experts or there are surveys done that say, well, the majority of people in social aren't even communicating. Fabulous. That means they're listening. Okay, because the ones that are communicating, first of all, I'm reaching out. I want people to communicate. If they do, I'll engage with every single one of them. But I also love the people that are wrapped around that who are just listening, who are engaging. Go to a cocktail party. Look in the room. 10% of the people are speaking. Everybody else is just absorbing the content. Guess what? They're the ones that you want.
Well, it's funny. I was just last night happened to be listening to a radio interview with Chris Brogan on Copyblogger. And Chris was saying that at this point, people say, hey, Chris Brogan could write an article on poop in the street and 50 people will comment. And he said, and that's true, but think about it. I have 70,000 RSS subscribers that download my blog every day, 200,000 monthly unique visitors. So to have 50 people comment, it's not that much. But he's got 69,950 people listening.
You know, and what Chris is doing is he's engaging people. He's out there producing content. He's getting people to come back. He's writing what he's thinking. And I got to tell you something. I'm going to say this. It's about Chris. It's about Brian Solis. It's about Gary Vaynerchuk. Any of these guys. There's no experts here. You know, and I say this when I speak. I'm not an expert. I'm not a guru. I'm just a guy with opinions who's not afraid to voice them. And more importantly, I go out and test what I think. I use it at brands. I do it. Most of what I do, whether it's for my personal brand via social or for companies, are things that I've tried and have worked. Therefore, I use them again. And what I like to say to people is, I'll test, I'll experiment, I'll find something that works, and then I'll drive a truck through it. And then I'll keep looking for the next thing because it just doesn't end with that.
All right, here's another thing that I'm just dying to hear your opinion on. So with so much stuff going on, so many blogs, I mean, today anybody with a keyboard, theoretically, and as Chris Brogan was talking about last night, it took him 8 years. He said he was blogging into a void. It took him 8 years to get 100 followers. So, but theoretically, anybody with a keyboard can be the next Chris Brogan, the next Ted Rubin. So how do we as marketers break through that noise?
It's a challenge. And the way I talk about it, I think Chris makes a great point because it's the same thing. I get people, they try something for a month, they go, I didn't get many followers or nobody's really listening. It can take years before you get a real audience listening to you. But as far as how do we break through that, I think a lot of it is self-policing and self-evident. The people that get followers, that bring good, valuable information, are the people that can continue to be heard. And let's take a great subject to bring this topic to. Brands like to say, well, you know, we don't like to pay bloggers. You hear some brands talk about this. Some of them understand there's no reason not to. Others are making this movement that if you pay bloggers, it's not authentic. The truth of the matter is, and this is really important, you're not paying bloggers for their advocacy if you're doing it right. You're paying them for their influence. You're paying them for their expertise. You're paying them for their hard work. And they deserve to get paid for that. Right. And what's going to happen with their audience is that if they're not legitimate with their audience, they're going to lose that audience. Right. Because they're going to smell them out in 2 seconds. I teach people how to build Twitter handles, and I talk about things you can do and personal things you can write and how you can connect with your audience. And I've had people raise their hand and go, oh, so all I have to do is act like I'm sensitive? And I'll say, no, because if you're acting, they're going to find you out. It's just like being on trial and you're on the witness stand and you're lying and you watch these TV shows and it's so easy to trip those people up because they're never sure about what they're saying. But you get the guy who's telling the real story, he's never going to get tripped up because he's speaking the truth. So if you're yourself, then your audience is going to understand you and there's going to be value there. So these bloggers who are getting paid, they're getting paid to do something that's work. Journalists get paid. You know, you like to say earned media. There's no real such thing as earned media in this country. Most brands that are getting written about via PR are buying advertisements in those newspapers and all those magazines. And I guarantee you, they're not getting written up if they're not buying ads. Okay, now, I'm not saying that the write-up is necessarily a quid pro quo, but they will not even get considered if they're not spending money there. And then how are they paying those journalists? They get a paycheck every week. Right. They're professionals, so why shouldn't anybody else who does this? But I think the voice will supersede anything you can write that's phony. So that's how you rise above the crowd. You're authentic, you're genuine, you put out valuable information, you keep doing it, and then you do everything else we have at our availability today. You make sure that you're out there at events, that you don't forget about meeting people face to face. You know, and I'm going to give you another great thing here. I want to show you something here. It's this really cool new invention. Anybody ever see one of these? You know what it's called? I think they call it an iPhone, right? What's the biggest part of the word iPhone? Phone. You know what you can do with this? It's amazing. You can call somebody and hear their voice. It's almost like a miracle. And you can have a real conversation. You can hear inflection and voice tone. And you can really get you can get a 20, 30, 50 emails and texts worth of business done in 2 minutes on the phone. And, start using this again. There's no reason not to call people. Sure, you can't reach out as easily into as big an audience, but pick somebody once a day and call them. Say hello.
Now, another question is, I go to a lot of conferences like you do, and the current trend, the current belief is that marketing organizations are starting to look like publishing companies with all of the content that they need to be producing to create what we call content marketing. So in your view, how would you prioritize, and I know it varies by every situation and company and target audience and all that, but just in general, how would you generalize current trends for marketing organizations and considering how they do content marketing? Where would they prioritize their investment?
Like you said, it's a tough question. I think everybody has to start thinking about content marketing. Content marketing is something that can pretty easily be outsourced. Okay. Unlike necessarily like a social presence, a lot of people are outsourcing it, but there has to be a real connection to the internal team. Otherwise, you're going to have a real disconnect, and you're not going to really understand the strategic purpose that's going on and the real brand voice. But with content, that really isn't necessarily the case, because you can have one person that kind of manages it at a company. But if you're looking for content production, whether it be about fun things, whether it be very specific about verticals that you're involved in, these are things that can easily be produced outside. And by the way, bloggers are fabulous for this, because they write tremendous content. It's very authentic. They have a built-in audience. So you're not only speaking to your own audience, you're utilizing other people's social graphs. So what I did at Elf was, we had a blog, and we had somebody inside who was our creative director, who was very attuned to what was happening, with fun things in the marketplace, with beauty, with cosmetics. And she would write once a week. But every other day of the week, we had filled up with guest writers. And we didn't even pay most of these people, because we had built up enough of an audience that they wanted to speak to our audience. So we had 250,000 visitors a month to our blog. So why wouldn't they want to write for that? And we, of course, allowed them links on the thing to link to their blog, because the bigger they got, I like to use a term, I know a lot of people have used it before, but we believe in collaboration, not competition. Now, granted, you have to compete with your direct competitors, and if someone's trying to sell a lip gloss, you're not going to collaborate with another company doing that. But these other people that want attention to their things, we're selling makeup, and yes, we have a blog that has to do with lifestyle, but if we have bloggers that are guest posting for us and they're getting bigger and bigger, it's only good for us. And even when they leave us, because we had bloggers that said, hey, listen, I don't have time for this, my blog's getting really big, but guess what? They tweet about it, they post on Facebook, they tell all their friends, oh my God, this relationship with this company was amazing, look what it did for me, and it allows us to continue that process of bringing in people that can write valuable content. So there's a lot of ways to approach it.
Okay, I really like this idea of outsourcing to what I would call a digital marketing agency. Is that a fair term?
I would like, with the way we're trying to position ourselves at Collective Bias, is we would really like to be more of a media company than an agency. So we kind of call ourselves a digital agency and media company right now. And we're not really digital. We're a social shopper marketing company, because we use social to create this shell of content around anything that we're working on. And where we'd like to be in the point where we are building our own syndication engine. So we have verticals in all different, we have Twitter handles, Pinterest pages, Facebook pages, in gardening, travel, lifestyle, family, you name it. Couch Critics, which is our entertainment vertical. So we not only can help you build your presence, but we can use the presence that we have to amplify any message that we're doing through your own channels.
Very, very interesting. So not only is a marketing department a publishing organization, but you're saying they could actually focus on the publishing aspect, outsourcing the content development, and even some of the syndication in terms of social media management.
Right, and let me give you look at another way to do it. Again, what we did at Elf that was tremendous is that we had no traditional marketing budget. So we partnered with people. When I was there, we built up a database of 2.4 million email addresses for our newsletter. And then we partnered with major brands who wanted to speak to women who were in aspirational state of mind. So let's look at any brand, especially these brands that have huge legacy followings. We work with M&M Mars on the M&M candy. We work with Hershey. We work with Glidden Paints. We work with Elmer's Glue. These are companies that have been around for years and have a lot of people that love their Usually what they love is what they can do with their products more than the products themselves. So we try to explain that to, let's say Elmer's Glue. It's not about the glue, it's about the do-it-yourself projects. It's about all these fun things you can do. But if you, now, does Elmer's really have to do this? No, but if you're a growing company, and even a company like this, if you build a huge content engine and a lot of followers, you can then co-promote with a million different brands that are synergistic to what you're doing. So if you're, and I'm making this up, but if you're a glue company, so I won't use the name, you could partner with a construction paper company, a pipe cleaner company. If you're M&M's, or if you're a candy company, you can partner with a party company or a cake company. And imagine what you could do if you have all this content and you have all these followers and the regular people and the value you can offer them, and then what they're going to do in return. And it might not be a direct quid pro quo. It could be some kind of point of purchase type of partnership. It can be something else that happens in a different environment, or it can be where a lot of the return on relationship comes for me on a personal level. It could be the what goes around comes around, or the pay it forward kind of level, where we're doing something great for them, and one day, we're going to have a little insurance policy for one, or we're going to have a relationship where we can say, hey, by the way, we included you in that campaign. What can you do for us here? And that goes to a lot of, like, I tweet often about build a relationship up front without any expectation of something in return. And I do want something in return, but I don't necessarily want it from you. I want it, and I hate to say it, but maybe it's cosmically. Maybe it's just that if I do good, then someone's going to do good for me. And I got to tell you that this has happened for me realistically in the corporate world and in the personal world and in the brand world, where I've said to somebody, why are you doing this? Well, because we see you doing stuff for people all over the place. Why wouldn't we help you? And that can be on a personal level or even on a company level. People like to, again, work with people they like and work with people that they feel are doing good for others.
Very nice. Great insights. Thank you so much for your time, Ted. We love hearing about you telling us about return on relationship.
My pleasure. Really happy to be here, and I'm so happy to be in Seattle. Fabulous city, beautiful place. I ate dinner at Anthony's last night, which I really enjoyed, and I'm going to Sazerac tonight, I think it's called. And I really appreciate you coming here into town and meeting me at the Marriott waterfront. It's really a beautiful place to be.
And we really appreciate you bringing in the sun from New York. If we could turn around the camera, you'd be looking at Alki Point here across the Puget Sound, and it's not raining. What a concept.
I love it.
All right, well, thank you so much. Talk to you later.
TheActuationZone.com, brought to you by ChangeLeadershipGroup.com. Copyright 2010, Brett Clay, all rights reserved.